And the Hangout on Air is live. Welcome, good morning, happy Friday. Give it a stretch, make sure we're nice and awake. And now we got to get pumped up because we're ready to go in to do battle here. We're going to do battle with Intuit.
Telling us. You know, I understand change is inevitable, and Linda Russell is my hero because she just says, you know, change is going to happen. You just live with it. You just sit down and you learn how to deal with it, and it's just a new way of doing it.
Go with the flow.
Well, there's a simple principle here, which is that Intuit can go out and say all they want that you can fire your accountant because you can do it yourself with QuickBooks Online and all the resources that they're providing. And the reality is that'll never be true. It will never, ever be true because what it'll do is it'll lead people to believe that it's true and they'll make a mess of their books and then we'll make that much more money getting paid to help clean it up. So I don't mind. I hope they do continue to, and I think it's Stacy Kildall who says that a lot too. Like, let them go out there and convince people that they can do their own books because it's an opportunity for us in the long run. That's really how I look at it.
Clean up stuff.
They did that in the beginning, but then they sort of got on board with the whole accountants thing and giving us, you know, tools and giving us, you know, special.
Here, hey,
and now I'm wondering if that's going away.
It's been a long time since we've seen you.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a mixed message because on the one hand they're saying, oh, you can do it yourself, you don't need your accountant. On the other hand, in 2 weeks they're inviting accountants among other people from all over the country and even other parts of the world to come and join with them and share and learn about. Yeah, they're going to invite us all up there and tell us, hey, we're going to encourage your clients to fire you. What's going on? You know, so but now it's interesting because now we're all going to go up there with this kind of ammo in our pockets, ready to do battle and say, hey, what are you guys doing? You know.
I'm looking at the new price structure. I've got a client with over 10 users, and they get billed about $1,500 a year. Now, I don't know if that's just... No, she gets the full-blown program. So
that doesn't seem
if
like
I look at this, I'm talking
for 10 users.
Profit going from $1,500 a year to $4,300 a year.
Yeah, but how are they getting 10 users for $1,500 on Enterprise?
I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
She emailed me. She says they hit my card in January for $1,500, but I thought they were on a unless it's 10. She has 10 users, but they're not consecutive. She may have a different. What level would be 1,500? Do you think? How do I know? I mean, if I go into her enterprise, is there a way to find out what she has?
Look at her receipt.
When you open QuickBooks, no, you can click on Help and you can get all the user license info right there.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever it is $1,500 now, so I don't know what it'll be.
That can't be for 10 users. It might be that they've created 10 users in QuickBooks, but they're not paying for 10 user licenses for that.
I don't think they would have that many people in at the same time.
Yeah.
So she wanted to know what I thought it was going to be next year.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if and when and how Intuit comes out and says, no, that's not what we meant.
We have it on video.
Years ago at the Sleater conference, they were saying, no, desktop isn't going anywhere. We're fully supporting all our products, and then they led some people to believe that they weren't maybe going to provide support for QuickBooks POS, and then they clarified that no, that's not what we're saying. You know, so it's I don't know.
You know, my biggest worry is this payroll because. You know, the enhanced version of payroll is so seamless. I can do quarterlies and nothing, and you know, e-pay. It's beautifully written, and I have all my pay codes and everything. And it is getting so expensive that it's like that's how they're going to shove everybody up to the online version.
Well, I have a simple answer to that, which is Zen Payroll. I started using it, and it's awesome.
Can you do a lot of pay codes for budgeting and things like that? Behind the scenes, pointing to the general ledger?
From the conversations I've had with them, it seems like you can do pretty much anything you need to.
Because I need
The
to
only
see
downside with it so far is that
Mhm.
they're not available in every state, but they've promised me that that will be that will change by the end of this year. That by the end of this year they're going to be
How about
available.
doing the quarterlies? Have you done any quarterlies, or do you let them do it?
No, I let them do it. I don't have time or
They make
patience
a
for it.
lot of money making doing quarterlies. Come on.
Yeah, but it's good to hand it off too for some of it.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
like
don't
to
want to spend my
control.
time doing that.
You
Do
know,
you
not.
use that with desktop, Seth, or are you using it with
Yeah, that's what I
online?
am using it with. I haven't used it with QBO yet.
Okay.
But the interface, from what I've seen of it so far, is like they say, it's it's delightful payroll. It's it's
Ooh.
very clean, easy to use, easy to get the reports, and it's funny because I almost like wanted to strangle myself hearing myself say this, but their import format is the IIF, but I backed up first, tested it, and it came in beautifully. It came in perfectly. So no
That's
issues
awesome.
there. Of course, you got to make sure the mapping is set up right, but
Yeah.
it worked beautifully. And I called him out on it at first. Before I imported it, I emailed my guy there and I said, hey, how can you guys tell me you integrate with QuickBooks and give me an IIF file? Everybody knows that's terrible. And it's interesting though, because a while back somebody else had told me that they were using Paychex integration, which also uses the IIF, and she said she'd had no problems whatsoever. So, like I said, when it came time to testing the first import ever that I did, I of course backed up QuickBooks first, and then I said, okay, I'll take my chances. I can always restore the backup. I did it, and it was perfect. It was seamless, and it took 2 seconds to do the import.
Well, and so maybe with the new year, it would be a good time to switch over.
Well, yeah, I mean, always it's good to switch it. Although they make it very easy to switch mid-year. You give them, they tell you exactly what information they need. They will take over the responsibility for any unpaid liabilities, coming out of your account, of course. But they'll handle the transition beautifully, from what I've now experienced actually, because I put one of my clients on it, and they're great about sending all kinds of notifications so you understand exactly what's happening. How many times have you signed somebody up for payroll service and everything's being handled electronically, but still EDD sends out forms as a standard because you've signed up for payroll, and then the client says, hey, what am I supposed to do with this? Zen Payroll sends out an email letting you know, hey, you're going to get some forms in the mail, but don't worry, we've got this handled for you, which is just a nice touch from a customer service standpoint.
Can I
And
ask a question?
T-sheets as well?
Yes, they integrate with T-sheets. In fact, that's one of the few programs that does integrate with T-sheets.
Great.
My needs are like I'll get timesheets, and so everybody's regular and overtime, but I have, say, 5 or 6 very unique regular and overtimes because I needed to go to a different place in the general ledger. So can you do that? Because T-sheets was just regular and overtime.
I imagine, Sarah, I can put you in touch with somebody at Zen Payroll and you can ask them the question. The feeling I get is you can lay out just about any scenario, and if they don't have it already built in, they'll create it for you. They seem to be that kind of company.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So.
Ho hum, changing. James, that is not good news for my client.
Well, again, look for alternatives. I mean, James posted in the chat that what it's going to do is it's going to introduce new competitors to QuickBooks Enterprise. People are going to start looking at Dynamics, Great Plains, which is Microsoft's product, which has been around forever.
I used to be a big Great Plains gal years ago.
Yeah, but then if they're going to price themselves up that high with Enterprise, they're going to force people to start considering whether they should take a look at something else.
And then I lose them as a client because, I've been doing this 30 years. I am not going to spend all this unbillable time learning something new at this point. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not today.
Not today.
Yeah, well, you certainly don't have to worry about it today, but it's something to think about. It's definitely something to think about, because if they force people to go online, ultimately by pricing Enterprise too high, and online doesn't have what people need yet to do what they need to do, especially for construction companies and contractors and the kinds of people we think of that just can't do QBO yet, then they're going to have no choice but to look for alternatives.
They've jumped the gun.
Well, if they
Jumped the gun. If QBO was ready as a replacement, yeah, you price them up and force them to jump, but price it up now? That's stupid.
I think they might just.
I mean, unless they have a rollout ready for QBO that we don't know about, that's going to be much more robust.
When is the time frame on this new pricing? Is it now?
This month, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
it
it's now. I
started
think it's up.
October, I don't know, the 6th or something.
So this is, and clearly they haven't announced the QBO option. So
No, the resellers, no.
there's a disconnect, and if that is in their plan, they're not communicating it very well.
You know, it's the same thing with the IPN going away. As ProAdvisors, we got no notification whatsoever.
That's the part that bothers me. We're supposed to be partners, you know. How can we partner when we can't prepare for these things?
That's obviously gone.
Yeah, we got to tell our clients ahead of time. We don't, you know, just get one day's notice and then bam.
Right.
Well, you know, it's funny because this is what Doug and I talk about a lot in terms of being able to be agile. Is we have to be prepared. You can't, and this is the problem with us as practitioners getting married into a product and saying, I'm only going to service people with QuickBooks, because then if QuickBooks does something like this, if Intuit does something like this, and forces our clients to want to consider alternatives, and like Sarah just pointed out, if we're not prepared or ready or willing to jump into another product and learn it. See, the difference is if we already know the other products, then there's no big deal. We just transition them because we already know how to use the product. But if we don't, if we're totally married to one product, then we're kind of screwed on that. We're either having to force our clients into a product that we don't really feel is sufficient for their needs, but just because we need to keep them as clients and get them in a product that we know, while making sure that they're not, you know, being charged an arm and a leg for it, or for that matter, more than they can afford. So this is why it is, I think, important to always be versed in other products and at least be, you know, Sarah, maybe you wouldn't want to, you know, jump on just a complete transition today, but maybe it's worth, especially since you said you were a Great Plains gal years back, it might not be that big of a leap if you started looking at it now and refamiliarizing yourself.
Be able to point them in the right direction to go look, and yeah, it's always what's best for the client, absolutely.
It's very risky to marry your future to a big company because they'll change on a dime and leave you stranded.
Yep, and they're gonna, you know, and again, it seems to me like they're almost behaving as a company as if they're talking only one vertical at a time, and that you know the different verticals can't hear what they're saying to the others.
Exactly.
You know, because they're going to that market and saying, hey, you don't need your accountant because QuickBooks Online is so wonderful. It's gonna make it easy for you to get a good set of books, and then they're coming to us saying, hey, come to our headquarters in San Jose for a big conference where we're going to invite you, the practitioners, we're going to invite the developers, we're even going to invite the business owners and bring you all together and connect, right?
Just don't use QuickBooks Online.
So on one platform they're saying, hey, let's connect everybody. On the other one they're saying, hey, we're going to disconnect you. You don't need your accountant anymore. I mean, it's, you know, it's such a mixed message, but you know,
one of the reasons I focused on QuickBooks years ago was when the ProAdvisor program came out, and I thought, you know, hey, they're going to try to, you know, partner with us, and at that point I was doing Real World, Great Plains. I mean, it was too much because if I don't use it every single day, I mean, I'm still finding features in QuickBooks that I didn't know was there. Somebody will say something, I'll go, really? You know, so as much as I read and study and I live QuickBooks, you know, I want to really know my product if I'm going to do a good job. So I had to at least focus on one really well.
I picked QuickBooks for one simple reason, because that's what most people were using. And over the years,
94% of the market share?
Yeah, and at times over the years, years back, I started to look at Sage, because every once in a while you'll get the people who just hate QuickBooks just for the sake of hating QuickBooks because it is the most popular one, and you have that mentality out there that's always going to exist where people want to hate the thing that's most popular. And so for that reason, I started looking at Sage. You know, and in those days, it was Sage had the competing product to the QuickBooks Desktop Edition, which was, I think, Sage 50 or something like that. It had been Peachtree, I guess, before, or whatever it was. And I started to dig in, but the more I was watching what was going on in social media and seeing what people were talking about in terms of what accounting software they were using, it just all roads led back to QuickBooks, right? Now you get into the online space, and QuickBooks does have some real competitors, such as these guys. I've got
a good swag.
Okay, let's get ready for the innuendos here. All right, I've got zero balls.
They're also blue.
And they're blue. I knew that was
Good one, Tim.
So
and on that note, it's
you've got a
8:15, so it's time
problem.
to get into today's main event. Did you guys get a chance to look at the trailer video that I put up?
No.
I thought I'd wait to be surprised.
So, okay, last Friday I was sitting at my computer here waiting for my wife to come home from work, and she was working late apparently. So I was sitting here and I was watching the Twitter stream for the show Shark Tank, which I normally watch with her every single week. And I'd thought about this before, but since I was at my computer, I had it right there in front of me in a click. I started thinking about the show and what goes on. Has everybody here watched the show?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Is anybody not familiar with Shark Tank?
I've heard about it.
And they're in LA, right?
They're based in LA. That's where they film, I believe. So, Tina, you raise your hand. You're not familiar with Shark Tank?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not familiar.
Yes, I'm not familiar.
Or no, you are familiar.
Extremely talented guys.
Yes,
Okay.
you have no bananas.
Yes, we have no bananas.
So, Shark Tank, Tina, very quickly, is a show where these billionaire investors, entrepreneurs, are on a
wrong
panel.
show.
What?
Sorry. I was thinking of the wrong show. Never mind.
Okay, so these billionaire investors sit on a panel, and people who have small companies, in many cases struggling, maybe even about to go out of business if they don't get help, come on the show looking for an investment from these guys. And these guys, you can look at the lineup if you Google Shark Tank or Shark Tank TV, you'll see who they are. They're Mark Cuban is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and you know I think he is actually a billionaire, not a millionaire, but a billionaire. You know, you have Lori Greiner, who has like hundreds or thousands of patents, and they call her like the queen of QVC. You have Barbara Corcoran, who's a real estate mogul from New York. You know, these are big time. Damon Johns, who started FUBU, which is a well-known clothing brand, and he's a big fashion mogul. And then you have Robert Herjavec, who owns now, I think it's an internet security, like cybersecurity company, and I guess he had a company before that he sold for hundreds of millions. So these guys are very, very, wealthy entrepreneurial investors, and these companies, these small companies, startups, come on their show looking for an investment from them in hopes of being able to stay alive. And some of them are not necessarily in the position where they're going to go out of business if they don't get the help, but many of them seem to be. So the first thing they do when they come on the show is they'll tell you a little bit about their company. Sometimes they give you a little bit more background. They show you a little blurb about the people and who they are and where they come from and why they started their company. And then they have them walking onto the show. And the first thing they always do is they say, my name is so-and-so, my company is such and such, and I'm seeking X number of dollars investment in exchange for 20% stake in my company, whatever it is. And so I was watching in the Twitter stream last Friday as they were, because the Twitter stream gets very active, of course, on Friday nights. Tonight is when the show airs. So this was last Friday. I was sitting there and I was starting to think, as I often do when I watch the show, I wonder how many people who watch the show understand what they're talking about when they talk about the valuation, right? Because when they come in and they say, I want, let's say, $250,000 for a 20% stake, immediately you see them all taking notes. And my guess is that what they're doing is they're calculating what the valuation is that they're asking for. In other words, based on what you're asking, how much are you really valuing your company at, right? And the truth is the math on this is pretty simple, but I thought, it'd be fun to create an Excel template that lets you drop those numbers in, and in a flash it'll calculate the valuation, right? So I'm going to share my screen and show you what I started to come up with. All right.
Boys.
So here's a template I created, and sure enough, you can come in here.
Oh, wow!
Is he a pro or what? Look at that letterhead.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you drop in, you say, so you have this in front of you while you're watching the show. The contestants come on, they say, I'm seeking an investment of $250,000 for 20% of my company. That means that 100% of the company they're saying is worth $1,250,000, right? And it's simple math. You take what they're asking for in dollars and divide that by the percent stake to gross it up to what 100% is. So, and these numbers are pretty easy to follow. That's why I laid them out on purpose. So 250,000, 20%, if you multiply 250,000 by 5, which is the same thing as dividing by 20%, you get 1,250,000. So this, of course, in a flash can help you see what the valuation is on the company based on the amount of investment and the percentage they're offering. So if I say 100,000 at 10%, I get $1 million, right? So when somebody comes in here and says, I want 250,000 in exchange for 20% of my company, they're basically selling, if you buy my whole company, it's worth 1,250,000. So the sharks write that down. I'm assuming that's what they're writing down. It seems like a good logical conclusion and assumption. And let me just, oh, you know what? I just realized I have this option up here. This is why I hate Google Hangouts. It says present to everyone, which leads me to believe that people who are reviewing and not in the live panel weren't seeing what I was showing. So hopefully everyone can see now. If you're watching in the live studio audience, just chime in and let me know.
Where did you find your present to everyone?
It showed up at the top of my screen.
Huh.
The top of your screen.
I'm going to test this theory and just make sure that it is showing my screen. Not in the live panel. We're seeing what I'm... Yeah, okay, so it's now showing for sure on my screen. And mind you, a few people have said to me that when they click to play it from the event page on Google+, it enlarges and fills up your whole screen, but if you move your mouse to the top right of your screen, there's a little arrow you can click on to pop it out in a separate window. This way you can watch and also be in the event page commenting and doing what you need to there. So just making sure that everybody understands that. So Mariette has been good enough to post the link to the ABC show website. All right, and then Billy Ann Grigg is confirming that she could see it. Great. So you can, if you go back to the event page, Mariette has posted the link to the website to watch the show live on the internet. So I'm watching the show, and I came up with this template, and then I'm thinking, okay, so they come in with this valuation. I've seen enough episodes now to have kind of gotten what the basic formula is. They come on the show, they say what they want, they say how much they're willing to give away for it. Based on that, we have a valuation. Now they have a job to do. They have to sell the sharks on the idea that this valuation is worth them investing into the company for, right? That their company is worth this much. So there's basically two big picture pieces to the sales pitch. One is they got to first sell them on the idea. They got to show them a product or a service or a business model in general that is unique and different, and where, you know, because you'll see a lot of them get squashed quickly because, you know, one of the sharks will come in and say, look, there's too low of a barrier to entry into your business. I can come in with a big company that has a lot of money and I can crush you. You know, so it has to be, the idea itself is the first thing you have to sell them on, is what I'm getting at. You have to sell them on the fact that the idea is something that truly is unique, that only you can do, or that it would be very difficult for a competitor to come in and crush you. Now, oh look, I got an email about my Trello account. Squirrel. So I got to thinking beyond this page, and I said, you know, the reality is when these companies come in and they're selling the sharks on the idea of their business, what it really amounts to is they're a lot of times valuing their business based on hype, right? They're trying to get the sharks excited based on the idea about the valuation. And what's going to happen in the second sort of phase of each segment that they do is once they're sold on the idea, if they haven't crushed them based on the idea not being sort of good enough, or, you know, sometimes they'll be honest and say, look, you have more work to do to prove the concept, then come back on the show, right? So the idea is first you got to get them sold on the idea. If they like the idea, the very next thing they're going to do is say, all right, give me the numbers. And usually what they're going to ask for is your gross sales, and then they're going to want to know what your net income is on that. And if it gets far enough, sometimes they'll go further and say, okay, do you have any other debt? Have you given away any other pieces of the company to any other investors? Those are big red flags, you know, very clearly to them. They don't want to buy into a company that's paying off debt, and they don't want to buy into a company that's shared with others unless you can show them a very good reason why it's still a good deal for them. At the end of the day, what the sharks are looking for very clearly, first of all, before I go further, let me say this. From what I've observed of the show, it seems clear to me that these guys genuinely want to help companies and help people. And they have. They've gone back and shown you some of the success stories in some of these companies and how successful they've become. Because besides getting their investment money, you're also getting all their contacts and connections, and they're going to do whatever they have to help make sure that it works. Right? Because they're putting their money to work for them, and they want to make sure they get that. And here comes the key word, return on investment. Right?
Yeah.
These guys invest in companies because they want to make money on that investment. That's the deal at the end of the day. So I started thinking, okay, a lot of these contestants come on, and in general, when people are trying to get investment into their company, they're going to try and sell the idea based on hype and say, my company's worth $1,250,000 because it's a brand new concept, it's an online company, it does this and that, and bells go off and lights shine, and you're going to make so much money on your investment, it's not funny, right? And then they cut into the numbers, and all of a sudden the numbers don't support this. And what it amounts to at the end of the day is, what is going to be my return on investment if I choose to invest in your company, getting a 20% stake at this valuation? And so I said, let me take this a step further. And what I've done here is I've laid out a very rough, very simple way to sketch out a projection based on your sales. The date is automatic. It's automatically going to start you with whatever month you're in when you open this template. It pulls from the computer's clock. It's a date formula, of course. So you can put any starting date in here, and it will roll forward from there. The idea is you put in your current month sales. So I've got the example of $250,000. And just coincidence that that's the same amount as the investment. This could be anything. And I'm saying, you know what, in this model, you're going to be able to put a monthly sales growth rate in here. And the model will calculate your monthly sales growth each month. So if I've got 5% in here, it's going to assume that each month our sales increase by 5% over the previous month. Now you can change this 5% to anything. So you can say equals 0.05 divided by 12 to kind of get an effective annual increase of 5%. I don't think I really needed the parentheses, but that way it assumes a less aggressive growth rate. It's more conservative, the numbers. Then you put in what you think the gross profit percentage of your company is as a percentage of sales, and then again, this is why I say this is very rough. Then you put in what the general administrative expenses are going to be in total as a percentage of your gross profit. Based on that, the model calculates what the net income is, and then we get the cumulative earnings, and then it takes the cumulative earnings and compares that with the shark's investment to see what is their return on investment, and for that matter, how long is it going to take before they recover their investment. And notice it goes green once they recover their initial investment. Once they go over 100%, of getting 100% of their money back, then it turns green. So you can see very easily in the timeline, based on your numbers, where they're going to go positive, and then you can decide, is this going to be a reasonable amount of time in which they get to recover their money and then make money on their investment? And that's something I can't give anybody the answer to. That's something I can lay out the template for you to help make that decision, but in the end, that's something you have to decide. It's going to be based on your industry, it's going to be based on your market, and a whole host of other things that go a little bit back to how you were selling the company based on hype, but you have to think in terms of, or try to think the way the sharks think. Are they going to get excited about this? Are they going to get excited about it taking from now until April of 2016 to recover their investment? And there's no clear answer on that. I can't say, yes, they're going to get excited, or no, there's no way, you have to get them their money back in 12 months. In fact, I asked a guy that I know here in Los Angeles, he's a mentor of mine on several levels, what he thought, and I said, do you think 12 months is a good time frame in which to expect to be able to return your investors' money to them? And he actually said to me he felt that was very fast. He said that in many cases it can take 3 or 4 years before you can expect to get your money back and then start making money on the deal. So it really depends on who you're talking to and what market you're in and a whole lot of other criteria. But the idea here is for you to see what your projections translate to as far as the return on investment goes, and then you have a decision to make. And this is where this template really comes in, and then I'll explain to you what the next phase of this is, as far as why I'm doing this and what I'm doing with it and so on.
Is there any calculation of present value?
No. I'm keeping this very simple.
Okay.
So
I have to say, I bow to your superior Excel skills. That whole red to green line down there, wow.
I'm so color oriented. This is just tickling me.
Looks like conditional.
It's conditional formatting. So,
If they-
so I lowered my sales growth to 0.42% monthly as opposed to 5%. If I go back to 5%, look at the difference that makes. Now I'm returning their money back to them in just a little over 1 year, right?
Yeah, that's wishful thinking.
Yeah, so let's go back to, and again, it might be that my business, if I'm starting out with $250,000 in monthly sales, it might not be that every situation is different. You really have to look at it that way. So let's say I've said no, 0.42% monthly, which is about 5% annually, is much more realistic sales growth. Let's say that we feel that the gross profit is fair, that the G&A is fair, and let's say we look at this timeline and we say, you know what, that's way too long for them to get their money back. We need to improve on this. We need to sweeten the deal for the sharks. So that's where we go back, assuming we feel that the projections are accurate. And at the end of the day, what that really means is that we want to, make sure that these numbers are realistic, that they're conservative, which means I can hit these numbers, if anything, very easily, so that any variance will more likely be in my favor rather than sort of out of my favor. So if I want to do that, and I'm ultimately looking to sell this deal to the sharks, because even when you're getting an investor, you're selling your company. You're just selling part of your company. So we go back to the valuations tab and we say, well, if I need to sweeten this deal, I got to do one of two things: either lower the amount of money I'm asking them for, or increase their stake in the company. It's one or the other to sweeten the deal. Now, let's say we've made the decision that, you know what, I need the $250,000. I set that dollar amount because I've already figured out what I need to do with that money, and I figured out that this is how much I need. Then that leaves you with one choice. Let's see what happens now if I increase their stake to 25%. So, and I'll explain the amount awarded part in a minute. But this is now 25%. Now let's see what that does. Now we're back to a little more than a year, right, based on just giving them a greater return on their investment. So they recover their investment faster, they make more money on their investment. I've just increased my chances of selling this to the sharks, assuming I can prove to them that these numbers are realistic. Right? So first I've sold them on the idea, now I got to sell them on the numbers.
I have a question. On the people that go on the show, do they have like a track record of their investment or their performance? And if so, are they like audited or reviewed financial statements so people aren't just sort of making stuff up?
I'm sure that somebody, first of all, you're dealing with investors who are very savvy, so I'm sure that before they actually finalize any deals they make, because these are real deals that they invest with their own money, I'm sure they do their due diligence. I don't think they're audited financials, but it is clear that they do tell the contestants ahead of time that they better come prepared with numbers to be able to talk about. So they are aware of that. But I saw in one episode this girl who was like a Harvard MBA in finance get blown out of the water by them, because I think she thought they were going to be very impressed with her background and didn't really do this kind of due diligence and say, do the numbers work? Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure they're not stupid. If anything, the opposite is true. They're some of the smartest business people out there. That's why they're where they are. So I'm sure they do their due diligence. And then, again, I obviously don't know anybody on the show, and I haven't talked to anybody at ABC or anybody who's involved with the show. But, you hear rumors about things, especially in Los Angeles and TV shows. So I did hear something the other day to the effect that a lot of these deals that do succeed on the show are often torpedoed afterwards. And it could be that they find out that they were full of it when they came with their number. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure before because they make the deal verbally on television, but nothing gets signed. So I'm sure afterwards they say, okay, let's take a look at the numbers. Let's make sure you weren't, blowing smoke, where. Yeah. So now the other thing I want to make clear, and then I want to show you one more thing on this, is that this template, as I've said, is very, very rough. So I made the point in the video series that I'm going to show you in a second, that I've now put up as of early this morning on schoolofbookkeeping.com, that if I were being hired, hint, hint, let's say, by one of these companies who wanted to get on the Shark Tank to help them do this part, then in addition to this would be the surface level part of it, but I would have cash flow projections. I'd have the P&L, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows all projected out on a 5-year basis. I would have supporting schedules on the sales, so I would sit down with them and say, why are you coming up with these sales projections? What makes you think you're going to sell this much? We have to make assumptions about whether, if it's a product model, how many products you're going to sell, why you think you can sell that much, why you think this is conservative, roll that out and flow that, and then I would have those detailed schedules flowing up to a summary like this. so that then we can play with real numbers. I can't stress enough. I mean, to assume that you're going to have a steady monthly sales growth every month in perpetuity is ridiculous. But it's just to give you a rough sketch. Every business just about is cyclical. So, of course, those who are using the template, if they wanted to, could certainly come in here and just override my formulas with whatever they think their real sales projections are going to be, and do the same with the gross profit, and do the same with the, the assumption about total G&A expenses. And so I would encourage people to do that, and I would also, of course, encourage you to make sure you save a copy of the template. Although you can certainly always come back to School of Bookkeeping, and it's out there as a free download. You do not have to pay for this content. I have made it available for fun and for free. So, with that said, I did put this up as a course in School of Bookkeeping. It is up here as a live course if you just go to courses, and then you'll see it's SA2. It's a standalone course, which is what we call a course when it's just like this, where it's 3 lessons, and we're putting it out there on kind of a trial basis to see what kind of interest we get. And if we get overwhelming interest, then we'll expand on this. But either way, I can tell you this, that we're definitely going to be rolling out content that goes further with the overall cash flow projections. That's been, in the works for a while now. So, certainly at some point next year at the latest, we will have a cash flow projections course, which is exactly going to be the content that I just described I would do, as far as making sure that people, could take what I've laid out in this template 10 steps further and really, do their due diligence as far as putting the numbers together. So it's a 3-lesson course right here. Each of these lessons gives you yet another opportunity to download the exact same template. So if you didn't decide to download it on the first lesson, you can grab it in either of the next 2. So you just click on here, and I've got the videos done. The first video in the series was the one I put up as the trailer for today's event. You're going to see that a lot of what I go over here is the same stuff I just talked about here, but much more concise. The first video is like 2 minutes and change, and the other 2 videos are each about 5 minutes. So, just come over here to School of Bookkeeping and check out this course. It's the first real free course that we're offering on School of Bookkeeping. I mean, all the other courses, you can get a certain amount of free content that we do, of course, on purpose as a teaser, but if you want to see the video, you got to be signed in and paid. Here, it's totally free. You don't have to pay a dime, and it's going to stay that way. Now, if we expand this into a full-length course, it might not. Well, this will still be there for free, but the full-length course may not be. So, and you see, notice my use of Snagit.
Yep.
I haven't played with mine yet.
I love it. All I want to do all day now, Sarah, is take screenshots of things. I have like a new screenshot addiction. I just take screenshots of everything.
So on your cash flow projections, that can be kind of a building on that, what was it, 2-hour, 3-hour course you taught a year ago on projecting cash flow?
Yeah, and updated for new tips and tricks that I've learned and developed over the years. Oh, look, QBox is syncing a QuickBooks file. Squirrel. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot like that, but broken down obviously into short lessons so that people can digest it in small chunks, and that's going to be probably a full-length course, not dissimilar in terms of scope to like what I'm doing now with Mastering Excel for Accounting Pros and QuickBooks Online. Excuse me. So that's the goal, and this is my example of how I'm not staying married to a product to make my whole living.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, and it's funny because I was talking with one of my mentors on the phone yesterday, and I was saying, for example, it would be so cool if I could get, let's say, Intuit to put something in the QuickBooks Online product offering, like a discount to QBO subscribers for schoolofbookkeeping.com. All right, this is starting to get annoying, QBox.
I thought it was my QBox. I was freaking out. I started clicking on things. So what do you mean?
So, so I was saying that, and then we got into that whole conversation. Well, do you really want to get married to one vendor like that? And I said, what? At the end of the day, if they want to do something like that for me, great. If not, that's okay too. I'm going to still do what I do, which is I'm going to produce content on the things that I love, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put it out there, to help people. That's my objective every day. So if I can get a deal like that, fine. If not, I've still got my vertical. I know who I am and what I do and where I stand in this world, if you know what I mean. So, and that's a beautiful thing. But so going back to this, so it's a 3-lesson course. And if you just click on courses, you'll find it in the course listing, and you can go through all 3 lessons. I have detailed write-ups on each, and of course the 3 videos that go with them. Any questions?
No, that's very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you guys like the template?
It is my cue box. It's not working.
So you're having that problem too, because I'm getting messages about companies syncing that I'm not in, and no one else is either. Are you getting that too?
I've got a client, but I don't. It'll sync when she's done for the day. I don't know what's going on.
It's going crazy, huh?
It's in like some little loop.
Mine is fine.
All right, and by the way, if you go back to the event page, Marriott's posting how to get on Shark Tank and win. Hey, don't post my competition. Just kidding.
Can I tell a bookkeeper story that might help your bookkeepers?
You know what? It's Halloween. It's Halloween month, so we need to think about our scary bookkeeping stories that we can tell.
This one's scary, but it's important.
Oh, go for it.
I trained a woman who had moved to Savannah. She'd been in bookkeeping for 30 years and moved here to retire, but she had to go back to work. Anyway, I trained her on a very complex client, but the client wanted her there. They wanted to walk up to that machine and look at their QuickBooks, and they didn't want their QuickBooks file out of the office, which is the way I had done it. So it actually was a client I lost. So because I wasn't going to go over there and work. So I trained her, and she's been over there for many years. It got up to 2 full days a week, $2,800 a month, a really good client for her. The problem was they put her desk and that computer in the basement in the hallway next to one employee who's a complete jerk. And so she got mixed up in the drama of that company.
Uh-oh.
And after being there for a long time, it's just, I think she got a little too comfortable. Anyway, they fired her this week. Waited until she finished payroll, of course, but.
Wow.
And so she came over yesterday, and we were talking about. I was showing her smart sheets and QBox, and maybe she could help me out while she's looking and everything. And she looked at this QBox and she said, "If I had that, I wouldn't have lost my job." She said, "They would have been happy. I could have stopped by, gotten everything that I needed, answered all the questions, get them a lot of hand-holding that they like, and I could have left and gone home." And yeah, I think she's right. I think she's right. So, in hindsight. So, anyway.
Was it personal drama that you got caught up in, or company drama? What's happening?
Too many chiefs. Too many, board of directors that's always stopping by, and everybody's the boss. And the man that she was working next to just didn't have enough authority to do anything. But she found some credit card charges. He would, lose receipts. So he wasn't following procedures, and then she would finally go over his head, and that would just really tick him off. And then he didn't do this on purpose, but some of these scams with the office supplies or something. Next thing you know, they've got your credit card number and they're hitting your credit card like crazy. And the only way to get rid of it is cancel the card, which is what eventually happened. But he was angry that she had gone above his head. It was a personality thing, and I think they just, some new people that didn't really know her, and how complex these books are. I mean, it's hysterical to think that somebody's going to walk in there and be able to do what they do. So, oh well, I wish them well, and I wish her well, but, she's right. Sometimes you don't want to work on clients' side.
Definitely. By the way, sorry, one more thing I forgot to mention. I did mention that the show airs tonight. What I forgot to mention is that I am going to be tweeting live during the show with the Shark Tank hashtag, and obviously letting people know about this resource that I've just created. So any help y'all can give by getting on Twitter and helping me by retweeting it or just tweeting it and posting it out there would be absolutely amazing. It would be great.
So what Shark Tank hashtag? Just hashtag Shark Tank?
Yeah, just hashtag Shark Tank, exactly.
You actually watch TV when it's like live? I hate commercials. I DVD everything, even if I get it.
You know what's funny about that, Sarah? I thought I was watching Shark Tank live every Friday night at 8 Pacific, and last week what I realized was, because like I said, when I started today, I was waiting for my wife to come home from work when the inspiration for all this hit, and I was on the Twitter stream checking out Shark Tank, developing the template, and working on it, and then I realized that based on the tweets, it was apparent that the show was live, and I think it was only about 6:30 at night here. So I realized I must be watching a replay every week. What's funny is you still get active Twitter feeds from obviously all the other people who are watching the replay. So I do. Shark Tank is probably one of the only shows that you'll catch me watching live. And it's funny though, in this social media / ADHD world that we live in, because it's not enough just to watch TV anymore. You have to have your mobile device ready so you can tweet about what you're watching and talk to other people who are watching it at the same time and say, "Oh, did you see that?" You know, God forbid you should maybe pick up a phone and call somebody and do it that way. But, of course, for me, there's an opportunity here where I'm going to be dropping this template and using the hashtag quite a bit during tonight's live airing, and I'll probably schedule some posts every week to do that in hopes that some of these contestants, or better yet, maybe the Sharks themselves might see it and like what I'm doing. They might hate it. They might call me up and say, "Get that crap off our Twitter."
What time? Excuse me. What time tonight for you?
Well, I have to find out for sure when the live show airs, so it's either going to be 6:30 or 8 o'clock, or, you know what, Marriott gave us the link.
During dinner.
Hold on, she gave us the link. Let's click on the link and see when the show actually airs.
Probably Eastern time limit. Eastern time zone.
Yeah, we might be having my hangout.
No, it's not that early.
Well, we're East Coast.
Right. So if he's 8,
That's
5.
5. It's 5
Yeah.
West Coast.
Yeah.
So I'm on the website now. I'm going to click Watch Live.
Careful when swimming with the sharks. Absolutely.
What's that?
Larry DeForest says, careful when swimming with the sharks.
That's okay. I have a dragon on my side. Dragons can beat up sharks.
Dragons beat up sharks? Oh.
Like there's rock, scissor, paper, and there's dragons, sharks, and water or something.
That'd be a fun fight to watch.
Watch Clash of the Titans. Okay, so it looks like Shark Tank, the live time is actually 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 6 p.m. Pacific. So that makes sense, because like I said, it was about 6:30 when I realized it was airing live last week. So 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The funny thing is that makes me realize I have to cancel something to be there. Because I'm all the way on the other side of Los Angeles on Fridays at that hour. So yeah, 9 p.m. Pacific, you know, just as much as you can get in there without being gratuitous about it. Drop in the link to my free course here and let people know that there's a really cool free template they can download. That would be awesome.
Okay, we'll be tweeting.
In fact, anybody who I catch live tweeting about Shark Tank tonight will get a free Zero Ball.
We'll get balls.
Blue
I'll
balls.
send you one of my Zero Balls.
I mean,
It's upside down. Seth, it's upside down.
But I have to put the caveat on that, while supplies last.
And how many do you have? 1?
No, I have quite a few, actually. Ian, after we did the last hangout for them, was kind enough to send me
you have to blow them up.
It's a box.
quite a lot of them in this box.
You got a box and you didn't tell us.
And I almost had an aneurysm trying to blow this one up the other day. I was on a video call with Eric, and he said, "Seth, you have to pinch the little thing so that air can flow through." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good with numbers and spreadsheets. I'm bad with balls."
Hey, Seth, do me a
You're
favor.
bad with blowing up blue balls.
Seth, do me a favor.
Yes,
When you send me a mailing, put one of those in there for Sammy. She'll love it.
I sure will.
Thank you.
For Sammy, anything.
I
So,
figured as much. And it does not need to be pre-blown.
I'm not touching that one.
but, Tina, I don't think you're on with us yet because you came on after we went live, but we went through all the innuendos about.
Oh,
this.
yeah, I missed all that. Hey, I'm talking about, my daughter here. Let's keep it clean.
That's why I'm saying.
Although she's at school, so.
Oh God. So And then I don't know what this is, but he had this in the box. I imagine it's meant to protect it. At first I thought he like sent me a card. I was like, oh, how nice.
Magnetic.
What?
Magnetic.
It's just like a piece of, I don't know what it is. It goes well with my shirt, though. If I get a hole in my shirt.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Wrong shape.
Oh, no. Somebody's got a call coming in. So anyway, that's my story for today, and I'm sticking to it. It looks like from the feedback on the event page here, like everybody likes this. So thank you very much for the support and the compliments about the template. I'm excited.
Seth,
Hey,
that was great.
how about your teaser to get us to watch today? What was that about?
This.
What do you mean? That was about this.
Ah,
I just released this course this morning.
that's the announcement. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Seth, what about your wife's job? Does that ever resolve itself, or
Which one? She's had a few.
said that she left one because she cared too much?
Well, that was an old post.
Oh.
You're talking about the blog post I have there. That was the job she had like probably more than 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Where they called her in, but it's an interesting story. I'll share it. It was an animal hospital that was run by, it was run by the vet, right? But then she had her husband, who has a background as a lawyer and in the entertainment industry. Based on that, I don't know what he knows about the veterinary business, but he was the sort of business operations manager. Okay. And he called her into the office one day, and they would record the phone calls with the clients as a training tool. And he called her in, and he played back a recording of a phone conversation that my wife had with a customer, where any normal person, it would have been very apparent, based on what my wife described to me about the conversation, that she was really going to great lengths to listen to the client, understand the needs, and address them. And he went off on her about how she spent way too much time on the phone with the client, and there's other things to do, and she needs to just cut the client off. And basically the way he was coaching her, the business operations manager, mind you, was essentially telling her in so many words that you need to cut the client off, take control of the conversation, and frankly be rude to them, right? Which is a great way to lose clients, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So the conversation evolved to a point where he started saying things to her that were just downright demeaning, at which point she said, I'd feel more comfortable if we had somebody else in the room here from this point forward. And as she walked out and opened the door to go she was going to get the vet, the guy's wife, to come in so that there'd be a witness to the conversation from that point on. Before she could get out the door, he says, you know what, you're fired. And I'm just like, wow. And I was dying. I was dying to hire an attorney and sue these idiots, but my wife just didn't want all the drama and the negativity, and I didn't blame her one bit, so we decided not to.
It's not an at-will state. Can't sue
California is an at-will state, but you can still sue for wrongful termination. That's the whole point. They don't have to give you a reason when they fire you, and you can sue them for wrongful termination.
And what's wrong? The guy
What's
didn't
wrong
like
is
her?
he fired her. What was his basis for firing her? His basis for firing her was that she wanted a witness to a conversation that she didn't feel comfortable with. Not to mention the nature of that conversation itself, it could be grounds for a lawsuit. Harassment and all kinds of other things.
Yeah. One of the things about being an employee is that you're so dependent on somebody else for your livelihood.
The guy went as far as to tell her in one conversation, I don't know if it was that one, but that hazing was a normal part of the process for new employees at companies.
Oh, he's a jerk. Yeah, she's better off. But he didn't have to pay any legal fees if somebody came after.
Well, I doubt he was equipped to handle a situation like that if it should arise. He was like an entertainment industry lawyer / musician / half-wit has-been who clearly didn't make it what he was trying to do, so he was helping his wife out with her business. And there were so many things wrong with the way they were doing things.
Did they stay in business?
Oh, by the way, we have more comments coming in on the feed here. So Chad Van Calster writes, if you like Shark Tank, there's a Canadian version of it called Dragon's Den. Robert Herjavec and Kevin O'Leary are on that show also. He says, I don't think it's still running, but it was a great fill-in until the new Shark Tank episodes air. And then Mariette writes, thanks for a great time, Hangout nerds. Now to finish some last-minute taxes, don't forget, in case you're in the late filing group, IRS closes tomorrow through 10/14. So you got to get it done today.
What happens?
So, Sarah, you don't have to work tomorrow, you can stay up late.
What happens is they're testing their e-file system.
Yeah.
Up on the 15th, so they're going to get blasted on the 15th.
Who was the wingnut that decided that was a good time to do that?
I don't know, but I don't know what they're doing when they crash the system on the 15th.
Oh my gosh, Dennis, you're in trouble.
I know. I better get my stuff done.
All right,
made
take
it
care,
down and you
James.
returned paper. I love
Oh,
that.
what was that, Tim?
Yeah.
Right, it's the tail day, trying to find that blue ball.
That tail's been going back and forth all morning.
Yes, I
I
know.
saw his tail.
It's been my mascot today.
Oh,
Normally
Well, next
does
time,
not
let us
crawl
have a
the
look.
table.
Pick her up.
hey,
Sure.
Seth, quick question before you end. You use Chrome, right?
That's Tigger.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh.
That's Tigger.
That's
That's
right.
Tigger. Okay.
Seth, you use Chrome, right?
I do.
If I'm in Smartsheets or other programs and I want to just view a PDF that's online, there's a way to view it without downloading it. I can't do that when I'm in Chrome. Is there like some add-on or something I need to?
No, when I'm in Chrome, in fact, that's always the default. If I click on a PDF, it
Hover
renders
over it.
right
Put your
inside
mouse
Chrome.
and hover.
I have the only option is to download, and I wrote them, and they said they sent me to some website to download some Chrome add-in, and I did it, and it still doesn't work. So I don't know.
The funny thing is, mine always does that, and I hate it. I'd prefer to download it because you don't have the flexibility in terms of just navigating it that you have when you're actually reading it in the Acrobat Reader.
Well, here's the thing. If I've got documents up there, I'm losing control of where my documents are going. I'd rather, like, if I have treasurers that need to approve things, they just need to view them and read them. I don't know where they're downloading this.
Yeah, but so I'll download it, I'll watch it, and then I'll throw it away because I know it's really still living in Smartsheet.
Well, I am, but I can't control users.
Right.
Plus, it's a pain that I just want to view. I don't want to have to download and view it and then delete it, so there's a setting somewhere. I don't know.
Mine just does it that way, and like I said, I prefer it downloaded it. So that's usually what I'm doing is I'm actually forcing it to download, even though it wants to show it inside the browser. Now, have you played with the Evernote integration on Smartsheet? It's awesome.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I set it up, but I haven't played with it.
It's really cool. It gives you this. Of course, you have to let it log into your Evernote account.
Right.
But you start searching for a note, and it finds it, and it finds it fast. Of course, you have to name things well.
Yeah.
I just saw Steve Kritzer in the background.
Yep, he's in the office.
So, yeah. So
I'll ask you how you do Evernote when you have a spouse, because I'm starting to really
lock down and make sure they can't see anything.
Well, I don't want to give him my password, but I want to be able for him to upload a me file.
No, then let him set up his own Evernote account and share a notebook with him.
Yeah, but you can't do a default inbox, I don't think. He can't put it in my inbox, right?
Well, if you have that particular notebook shared with him, and then
Just
so you
call it
both have
an
the same
inbox.
shared notebook as your default inbox, I suppose that could do it. But I'd be very weary about doing that because you might just wind up with stuff you don't want there.
I want him to have access to anything, that's ours, of course. But like if I'm searching something for his Christmas present, I don't want him to see that. All right, yeah, I'm really, really doing more and more in Evernote. It's really getting to be a cool, fun thing to do. So,
Cool.
wow. We learned all kinds of things
Anything
today.
else before we wrap up? We have like a minute left.
I just want to say hi, Tina. I didn't have a chance to say that earlier. It's been a long time since we've seen you.
I know, I carved out an hour this morning. I decided to pop in. I've been swamped with work, which is a good thing.
If you need more work, call me.
I wish I could take on more right now. I'm trying to juggle and rework my schedule, so it'll get there, but it's just not there yet. Now I'm in budget mode for the church, so it's like, oh my
you have a
goodness.
separate office now.
Right. Oh, where you're at, Tina, it's different than where you usually were. You usually were in the living room or something?
Yeah, I have so much work now that I actually had to move into our office.
Oh, okay.
So this is the man cave, Steve's office. So I have a little corner.
Usually you're on the couch.
I know that was my office because I didn't have enough work, but I had so much work that I was having shoulder and wrist and finger problems and back problems.
Yeah, you have to get ergonomically correct.
Yeah, I'm closer now.
You need an investment from the Shark Tank so you can get your own office and all the
No,
stuff.
I'm so small, I'm not even a potato.
Well, it's funny. In my write-up, you'll read this. One of the guys, Kevin O'Leary, he's the one who cracks me up the most on the show, but it's because he's so downspoken towards all the contestants who come on, and he'll say things like, things along the lines of some version of, why should I care about you? You're a cockroach. You're just so small, you're insignificant. And so in my write-up at one point, and you'll see this in what I put up in schoolofbookkeeping.com, I pose the question, so, which shark would I want to work with? And I point out that, he's the one I want to work with least, because I don't want to work with somebody who refers to people as cockroaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sharks don't eat cockroaches, do they?
No, cockroaches don't live in the water.
They could if they wanted to.
They could, yeah, that's true. They could survive a nuclear holocaust.
They could live wherever they wanted to. They've survived.
So maybe that's a compliment.
From him, it might be. But it's funny because
So
their
super.
classic thing that they say when they decide they're not going to invest is they'll kind of explain what they don't like or what their concerns are, and then they'll say, and for those reasons, I'm out. So in my write-up, I basically made a statement effectively aimed at Kevin O'Leary, saying, Kevin, you refer to people as cockroaches, and for that reason, I'm out.
The cockroaches survive.
That's right.
That's true. Us little cockroaches. All right, everybody. Gina's Hangout today, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. What's our topic? Do we have a topic?
Yes, we do. Green Rope CRM. It's going to be interesting. Come watch Lars. He's going to give us a demo.
All right, Green Rope CRM it is. We'll see you all there.
Okay.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.